Let me ask you something. While you're working, sending emails, browsing the internet, using company tools, have you ever wondered how much of that is actually being watched? And more importantly, how much can your employer legally monitor? It's a question most people think about, but rarely get a clear answer to. Welcome to Bluehat Cybersec Academy. In today's digital workplace, this simple question opens the door to some very complex legal and ethical concerns. From emails and internet usage to keystrokes and even location data, workplace monitoring has expanded rapidly with technology. While organizations justify monitoring for productivity, security, and compliance, employees often worry about privacy and overreach. So where is the line drawn? In this discussion, we're going to explore what employers can legally track, how laws differ across regions, and what rights employees should be aware of, all in a clear, practical, and balanced way. Now, to begin with, let's understand workplace monitoring itself. Workplace monitoring refers to the tools and methods employers use to observe, record, or analyze employee activity during work hours, especially when using company systems. This monitoring can take different forms. It can be digital, like emails, browsing activity, or software usage. It can be physical, such as CCTV cameras or access logs, or even behavioral, like performance metrics and productivity tracking. And here's the important part. The key issue isn't just what is monitored, but how it's done, why it's done, and whether employees are actually informed about it. Now you might be thinking, why do companies monitor at all? Well, there are several reasons. It could be for security, to prevent data breaches, insider threats, and cyber attacks. It could be for productivity, to measure performance and efficiency. It could be for compliance, to meet legal and industry regulations, or simply for resource management, to ensure company systems are used properly. In many cases, monitoring is not just allowed, it's expected. But that doesn't mean anything goes. It still has to be done responsibly. So now let's get into the core question. What can employers actually track? Let's break this down step by step. When it comes to email and communication monitoring, employers can typically monitor work-related communication. This includes emails sent and received through company systems and even internal communication tools like Slack or Microsoft Teams. Why is this allowed? Well, because these systems are considered company property. However, there's an important condition here. In many jurisdictions, employees must be informed, and when it comes to personal emails, even on work devices, there can be restrictions. Moving on to internet and browser activity, employers often track websites visited, the time spent online, and even downloads and uploads. This is especially common in corporate networks, but once again, transparency matters. Hidden or excessive tracking can cross legal boundaries depending on the region. Now let's talk about something more intrusive: keystroke and activity monitoring. Some organizations use software to track keystrokes, screen activity, and even the time spent on specific tasks. While this may be legal in certain areas, it is often considered highly invasive. That's why many laws require clear employee consent, along with a strong and justifiable purpose. Let's move to physical monitoring, video surveillance, or CCTV. Employers can use CCTV cameras for security and workplace safety, but there are strict limits. For example, cameras cannot be placed in private areas like restrooms or changing rooms, and employees should always be notified. So even here, boundaries are very clear. Now, in certain roles, especially those involving travel, location tracking becomes relevant. Employers may monitor GPS location and movement patterns. This is typical in logistics, delivery, and field services. However, there's a line. Tracking outside work hours is often restricted, and again, consent and purpose must be clearly defined. Finally, let's talk about device and software monitoring. Employers can monitor company-owned devices. This includes installed applications, file access and transfers, and overall system usage. This type of monitoring plays a big role in cybersecurity, especially in preventing data leaks. Now, just because monitoring is allowed, doesn't mean there are no limits. There are clear boundaries. Employers generally cannot monitor employees without informing them, at least in many jurisdictions. They cannot track activity in private spaces. They cannot access purely personal accounts or devices without consent, and they cannot conduct surveillance that is excessive or unrelated to work. Crossing these lines can lead to serious legal consequences and a breakdown of trust. Even though laws differ from country to country, most of them are built on a few core principles. Let's quickly go through them. First, transparency. employees should know what is being monitored and why. Second, consent. In many regions, consent is required, either explicit or implied. Third, proportionality. Monitoring should be limited to what is necessary, not excessive. And fourth, purpose limitation. Data collected should only be used for legitimate business reasons. Now, let's take a quick look at how this varies around the world. In the European Union, under GDPR, employee privacy is strongly protected. Monitoring must be justified, minimal, and transparent. In the United States, employers generally have broader rights, especially on company-owned systems, but laws can vary by state. In the United Kingdom, monitoring is allowed but regulated under data protection and employment laws. And in many parts of Asia and other regions, laws are still evolving, with growing focus on employee privacy and data protection. But here's something important to remember. Just because something is legal doesn't always mean it's ethical. Excessive monitoring can reduce employee trust. It can create stress and anxiety, and it can negatively impact workplace culture. Organizations that strike a balance between security and privacy tend to perform better over time. So what should employers do to stay on the right side of both law and ethics? Here are some best practices. Clearly communicate monitoring policies. Obtain consent where required. Limit monitoring to work-related activities. Protect collected data securely. And, regularly review monitoring practices. And from the employee's perspective, awareness is key. Employees should read workplace policies carefully. They should understand what is being tracked. They should use company devices responsibly. And they should know their rights under local laws. Because honestly, understanding your rights is your first line of protection. So let's bring this back to you. Now that you know what can and cannot be monitored, how do you feel about it? Does it change the way you think about privacy at work? The reality is this. Workplace monitoring is a powerful tool. Employers can track a wide range of activities, especially on company systems. However, they must respect legal boundaries, ensure transparency, and avoid unnecessary intrusion. For employees, understanding these laws is essential in navigating the modern digital workplace. Because in the end, the real question isn't just what can employers track? It's also, how can monitoring be done fairly, responsibly, and with trust on both sides? And now, let's make this interactive. Can an employer monitor your emails if you're using a company device? Why or why not? What is one example of monitoring that would be considered too intrusive? Why is employee consent important in workplace monitoring? Can employers track your location outside working hours? What do you think? And here's a bonus. Which principle do you think is most important, transparency, consent, or proportionality? Take a moment to think about these, or drop your answers and discuss them with others. And if this helped you better understand your rights and responsibilities in the workplace, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more insights from our cyber law, governance, and compliance playlist. Because in today's digital world, knowing your rights is just as important as protecting your data.